Now, to other people who've been potentially breaking the rules, the Wanaka holidaying Auckland couple. They have quickly become quite infamous, haven't they? They've been granted interim name suppression. They got that at a very late night meeting last night, angering some people in the public further, even though they are yet to be charged with anything. With us right now on this is law professor Chris Gallivan from Massey University. Afternoon, Chris.
Kia ora, Heather.
Okay, so why do you think these two actually need the name suppression?
Well, name suppression has got some pretty clear criteria. It was amended in 2011 because there was a general perception that it was given out freely by the courts, but things have quite fundamentally changed since it's come under the Criminal Procedure Act 2011, and there's a lot of criteria, and some of those is actually the safety of people, some of it's about the victims, but also some of it is extreme hardship in relation to the piece of people who may have been charged, or in this case, are yet to be charged. And so it's not unusual, and it's not a particularly high hurdle in the very first instance. This has been given to give them time to make the application in the High Court. I think it's reasonable to be given. We don't know all the circumstances. They haven't been charged yet. It's not final. It's only interim. And justice needs to be absolutely clear. It needs to be seen to be done. It needs to be transparent. The Supreme Court's been very, very hot on this. People just need to cool their heels a little bit, and the anger and frustration that I feel, as well as everybody else, is totally understandable, but is perhaps case in point number one as to why name suppression on an interim basis ought to have been given in this case.
Okay, Chris, so let's just separate the two things out, right? The one thing is the interim name suppression, which has just been granted at the minute, and then there is the other thing, which is the ongoing and permanent name suppression. You are in support of interim for now, not necessarily permanent?
Well, not necessarily, simply because I don't know all the facts. So these things, we might say that, look, the person who coughed and sneezed and willfully sort of effectively spat on people in a supermarket some time ago who wasn't given final name suppression, and if he wasn't, then they shouldn't. Well, actually, with name suppression, things are a little bit more nuanced, and the courts treat it incredibly serious. It's not given out flippantly, and I actually trust the courts in context of the regime that we have under legislation to go through every case bit by bit to ensure that it is appropriately given out in cases and not given out willy-nilly. The law makes it very, very clear, in the case law in particular, very clear that it's not given out merely because the person's of a high public profile or that it might cause normal embarrassment or shame that comes with a conviction. Those are not criteria for extreme hardship. But in this circumstance here, I can totally understand and support why interim name suppression is given, but that permanent name suppression, like you said, is a completely different story and another matter for another day.
Can you tell that the public has lost patience with name suppression?
No, I can't. I can understand that they're infuriated about this.
Yeah.
But everything that I see, I can't see that there is name suppression as a general concept as people have lost patience with it. Yes, it does come up quite regularly, but name suppression isn't given out willy-nilly for no reason. It's given out for very good reasons that go to the fundamental premise of our whole criminal justice system. And perhaps the most notable case in the last few years is the killer of Grace Millane.
Yeah.
I can't remember. He doesn't actually have name suppression now, so we can actually name him, but I can't remember what his name was.
Jesse Kempson.
But that's right. And, of course, name suppression has really struggled in the last few years with the internet and with social media. And we know that in the context of that case, that his name was widely distributed and unable to be enforced because it was distributed all overseas. So some people might say it doesn't serve a purpose, and it's what purpose it does serve is being undermined because we now live in a new age. And those are some valid concerns for a discussion about how we might do name suppression better. But to say that we should either get rid of it or that the whole system is completely broken is a knee-jerk reaction that is just not founded by the data or the evidence, Chris, or what I would say principle.
The reason I ask you if you can tell that people are becoming less tolerant of it is because within the case with Jesse Kempson, which actually the name suppression there was entirely valid to try to make sure that whatever future charges he faced actually stuck through a fair trial, right? But in that case, people actively and deliberately broke the name suppression. And in this case, people actively and deliberately tried to get those names out in a concerted campaign before the name suppression. Doesn't that tell you people either don't understand why we're doing it or they're tired of it being used by rich people, celebrities and athletes?
Well, that's a very loaded question here because you've just gone right at the end and said it's only used by certain groups of people.
No, not exclusively. But obviously the thing is we have a disproportionate interest in those people, right? So when they use it, it kind of reinforces the idea that it is being handed out to them more often.
Yeah, look, I totally acknowledge that some people clearly have lost patience with it or don't believe in the principles upon which it's there to protect, and have gone and done things quite willfully and actively to go and promulgate names around. But just as you're the lead into this story, and I heard you talk about police not enforcing against the gangs who were at the funeral yesterday, I think you would probably be the first one to say that just because some people flout it and don't think that it should be the law, ought not to be the way in which we go and guide our instruction as to whether we should have name suppression in the future. Yes, it is a concern. Yes, we absolutely have to deal with it. Yes, the tools that we have in the context of the world that's now interconnected through social media creates very serious difficulties for the integrity of name suppression. That means we need to think about it really goes to the core of a criminal justice system, which on many fronts is dealing with a complete from when many of those principles were founded hundreds of years ago. And it does need to develop in a way that means that
it's like talking to a robot, isn't it? It got quite hairy at the end there. Anyway, Chris, sorry, we can't hear you because your phone's done something really weird and dodgy, but we got the gist of it, and we appreciate your expertise in this, obviously. Chris Gallivan, Massey University Law Professor.